30 minutes. Some quizzes will be 40 or 45 minutes. Some quizzes I'll give you 2 attempts, and some are just 1 attempt. So don't automatically assume you're going to get 2 attempts to the quiz and then do 1 attempt and be like, oh my gosh, I thought I was going to get a second attempt. So pay attention. Also, when you're going through the quiz, make sure you complete it all the way and thoroughly. If you have any tech issues during your quiz or right after, please contact Canvas Student Support. It's in the bottom left-hand corner, because on the technology side, I really can't do much. So also make sure you have a good Wi-Fi when you're taking the quiz. You're in a good spot, because that would be bad if like the Wi-Fi went out and then, you know, you're in your quiz. Hopefully you guys don't come across that. And again, they're open books, so you guys should all be doing well in the quizzes. This week we're going to go over preparing written messages. I have a small lecture for you, and then we're going to get into teams, because it's all about communicating in teams, and we're going to do a fun little scavenger hunt I'm going to have you guys do. So no Google Doc today. We're going to have you guys do a scavenger hunt. Alright, so preparing written messages. The learning outcomes for this week is to apply techniques for developing effective sentences and unified and coherent paragraphs. Prepare visually appealing documents that grab the audience's attention and increase comprehension. Identify factors affecting readability and revise messages to improve the readability. Revise and proofread a message for content, organization, style, and tone, and mechanics, format, and layout. So, sentence structure. We kind of went over last week, active versus passive. This is just a little review here. Business writing, we always strive for an active voice. It kind of comes naturally too. So active voice is the subject of a sentence, is the doer of an action. So the example would be John read the report. And a passive voice is the subject of a sentence, is the receiver of an action. So the report was read by John. Requirements of developing coherent paragraphs. And for those of you who have taken some writing classes, you should already kind of know all this. Position the topic sentence appropriately. So your topic sentence identifies the portion of the topic being discussed. You don't want to be all over the place in your email communication, for example. Presents the central idea of the paragraph. Deductive paragraph. The topic sentence precedes the details. So get to the point. Example would be a good news message. You don't need to make it all long and dragged out. Remember people's attention spans. And when you're in the business world, you're receiving a lot of emails. You don't want like a book in there. Just, you know, get to the point. If it's going to be a book email, you may as well just call the person and talk to them on the phone. Inductive paragraph. Topic sentence follows the details. So build up to the point. Example would be a bad news message and a sales message. Yeah, that's the thing with the younger demographic. They tend to not want to get on the phone with people. And, you know, sometimes it's just better get on the phone with people, discuss it, and then send an email recap, short and sweet, with bullet points of what you kind of discuss, so that you have a paper trail of it. So which one reads better and why? I have 2 versions here of the following document. Which ones reads better and why? So I'm going to have you guys take a look. If you can get on your Canvas. Oh, shoot, I don't have it in here. Hold on. Let's see. I'll just share it with you guys instead. All right, I'm going to share this Google Doc in your chat here, and I want you to take a good 5 minutes and read both versions. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to read both of those. Write in the chat for some reason if you can't get the link. You can't get the Google Doc. All right, so you guys kind of see the difference here between the old message and the new message. It's really the same copy, it's just broken out into paragraphs. So visually, you can see it better and you can read it better. And if you've noticed, a lot of Facebook and Instagram posts are doing this method as well. They're using this technique of spacing things out and grabbing people's attention more. Okay, so some tools to keep your messages tidy. You can use bulleted lists, headlines, tables and graphics, lines and borders, and relevant images. Make sure they're professional images though. Avoid cliches and jargon. So cliches are overused expressions that cause users to be perceived as unoriginal, unimaginative, lazy, disrespectful. So an example would be get to the bottom of it. So you want to try to avoid those as much as possible in your business writing. Eliminate profanity, slang, and acronyms. So an example is OMG. Now that might work on social media platforms speaking to someone, and that's totally fine. But in email, keep it professional. Unless you're emailing a friend of yours, but I should not be seeing emails like that as a professor, you know what I mean? Don't use complicated language or jargon. So jargon meaning industry-specific language often used with colleagues in the same field. You need to make sure that your audience understands what you're talking about. It can be an informal way to subordinate others by using unfamiliar terms. So just kind of like a respect thing. Techniques to produce concise messages. Avoid redundancy. Again, you kind of just get to the point. Word unnecessarily repeating an idea in an accompanied word. So an example would be, we need to meet next week. Since we need to meet next week, it is important I hear from you ASAP. So you could have just taken this first whole sentence out, right? So you're repeating yourself right here. Avoid restating ideas and shorten sentences. Write more like a blogger, less like a lawyer. You want your audience to understand very easily. Maintain a positive and clear tone. So tone conveys the writer's or speaker's attitude toward the message and the receiver. State ideas using positive language. Focus on what you can do for the customer, not what you can't do. So think if you were on the other side of the customer service. You don't want them telling you, no, you can't do that. You want them to be a problem solver and figure out what can they do. So negative would be, smoking is not allowed in the campus cafeteria. A positive example would be, smoking is allowed in the smoking area located in the east parking lot. See the difference there? Positive and negative. Choose your words carefully. So euphemism is a kind word to substitute for an offending word. An example would be, instead of saying he is unemployed, you would say he is between jobs. Or my favorite is, I'm on sabbatical. Remember that one. That helped me when I was unemployed in grad school for a short period of time. I'm on sabbatical while I finish grad school. Sounds a lot better than saying I don't have a job, right? Double speak. Euphemisms that deliberately mislead, hide, or evade the truth. So an example would be, the best job in the world. It's inflated language, an example of double speak. Be clear in your messaging. Denotative meaning, literal meaning of a word that most people assign to it. He was late is denotative. He is a free spirit is connotative. Connotative meaning, literal meaning of a word plus an extra message. So he's slippery on the details. Think of how word choice impacts the meaning of these words. So thrifty is positive versus savor is like more of a neutral term, and stingy could be more of a negative term. If you have issues trying to figure out which words to use, I always use a thesaurus. I have a thesaurus tab open on my computer, so when I'm writing language and the word isn't coming to me, I just look it up on a thesaurus and find a different word that works better, that's more positive. Big tip there. Use bias-free language. Use occupational titles that reflect genuine sensitivity to gender and orientation. Avoid referring to men and women in stereotyped roles and occupations. So an example would be, my sister's husband is a male nurse. You don't really need to use that word male. You could just say, my sister's husband is a nurse. Nurse can be a male or female, right? Designating an occupation by gender, so mailman. Using expressions that may be perceived to be gender biased. And the LGBTQ, racial, ethnic, age, disability bias. So always kind of be careful. And this is another reason why it's good to reread your emails a couple times before you send them out. Always proof your work. All right, most important slide here. Text messaging and social media posts are more informal. However, more business people are using text messaging. Another tip for you guys, if you're working for a company where you're having to use your personal phone for text messaging all the time and making phone calls, they should be paying for your cell phone bill, okay? Don't let them take advantage of you guys. Even if they don't pay for the whole bill, maybe your bill's $100 a month, and negotiate with them. Hey, I'm using my personal phone for texting all the time. Like, you got negotiate them where they pay $40 or $50 of your bill. Don't let people take advantage of you, because they will. Even big companies, they will take advantage of you. Some companies, they give you a company cell phone and then you got to kind of carry two around, but at least you're not paying for it. So text messaging and social media is more informal. Business writing is expected to be error-free. I try my hardest to make it error-free, but you know, we're human, so sometimes there's going to be errors. Always use spell check. There's a great app called Grammarly, and it's a free app you can put on your computer, and it will catch a lot of errors, grammar errors. It even helps you catch grammar errors in social media posts if you're doing social media on your computer. And I believe you can download Grammarly to certain phones as well. So that really helps with the spell checking. And remember that from last week, those words like there and there, that where we mess up all the time, it helps with that as well. Display the document in print preview mode and edit for format and layout. So when you're writing in a Word doc, print a draft copy and proofread it again if the document is non-routine and complex. So that could be a proposal or a memo, or mainly proposals, really. If you're a salesperson and you're afraid of errors, print it out. Put it away for, you know, a good couple hours, come back to it and read it. And your eyes will see things differently. It'll catch things like, oh, that sentence doesn't make that much sense. Read it out loud too, that also helps. Remember, sending a message is a record of your attention to detail and professionalism. So if you're sending an email out, maybe trying to get a job, and there's errors in it, you're not going to get hired. You got to make sure that everything is professional, and your resumes, your cover letters, and emails that you send out with your resumes and cover letters. Okay, so now we have the email etiquette scavenger hunt. We're right on time here. Does anyone have any questions so far? You can download these slides. They're on Canvas. Either unmute yourself or type in the chat. Okay. Thank you, Zoe. Got one person. Okay, two people. Thank you. It's like just little things that you may not think about, and they're like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. Like, duh, I should be doing that, right? Okay, so email scavenger hunt for all my Google people who are really good at Google. So I'm going to put you guys into groups, bigger groups, because this is kind of a big task and we have about 50 minutes to do it. So once you're in your team, decide who will be the leader and the note taker. So there's really two roles, and then everyone else in the group. The note taker will create a Google Doc, so just a plain one, to share with the whole team. And please name this Google Doc. Here's the naming structure here: Business 290, email etiquette, and then your group number. Your group number, you'll get that when you're assigned your breakout room. Put all the group member names, first and last, in the document at the top so that I can see who's in the group for grading. And the leader, so whoever's designated as a leader, you're in charge of your team, just like in a work environment. You're in charge of your team here. You will assign the task that will be distributed to complete the scavenger hunt on the following slide here. So you're going to be the one telling everyone what to do. So think of it as you're the supervisor and everyone else in the team is your subordinates, okay? All group members must contribute to adding their own content into the Google Doc. So the note taker is going to share this Google Doc with all members of the team, and you guys can all go in there and type in your section or your task. If for some reason there's someone who is not participating, leader, please send me an email later and say this person did not participate, because that's not fair that they're getting participation points if they're not doing anything, okay? I know there's always one, so no problem sending me an email later. When the scavenger hunt is complete, the note taker will share the Google Doc with me so that I can read it. And you should be able to share it with this email address. Okay? So that's kind of the rules there. That's what we're doing. Again, you can download these slides from Canvas. You know, I'll keep one screen up. So here's the scavenger hunt. You need to find one piece. So this is Googling different things out there on the internet. Find one piece of advice for forwarding business emails that was not described in class. Write out the advice and the URL, the link. You need to find 2 or more lines from an angry email someone sent to a boss. Write out the 2 lines, the situation, and the URL where it was described. When you're writing out the situation, it can be really short and sweet, okay? You don't have to write like a whole page on this. You're going to spend most of the time finding this stuff. Find 3 stories of people getting caught in reply all email chains. List the URL and explain what happened to whom. And maybe you guys don't need a Google search. Maybe you guys have these emails already in your emails and you could take like a screenshot of it or something. You're like, oh, this just happened to me. I have an example. Find 4 pieces of online advice on CCing etiquette. Summarize the advice and list the URLs and what type of site they are. And lastly, find 5 bad email subject lines for work, as described in an article or a blog post directed towards professionals. List the subject lines and the URLs. That one's going to be the most fun. A great resource besides just Googling stuff is LinkedIn. You can find a lot of tips and resources and articles in LinkedIn. Okay? Does anyone have any questions? Once you get into your group and you start working on it, if you have a question, just raise the question thing. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. Or actually, I'll keep my screen up here. All right, so what'd you guys think of that? Did you have enough time to find everything?
Definitely.
Did everyone find it? Did any teams not find everything? No, you guys all found stuff? Cool.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bad emails out there, huh? It's pretty funny. Okay, so just going over real quick, just to finish things up. What's due this week, you have quiz 2 is due on the 25th, tomorrow. Some of you guys have already done that. And your check-in number 4 is also due tomorrow. And most of you guys have already done that. And then coming up next week is your quiz 3 on November 4th. And that'll be on written messages. And the one that's due tomorrow is planning messages. So, any questions on anything coming up? Your first major, assignment is the analytical report, step 1, and that isn't due until week 8, so you guys still have plenty of time for all that, just to give you a heads up.
The November 4th is a typo, correct? It's October 4th?
Yes, thank you.
That freaked me out for a second. I was like, we don't have another quiz till November? This is awesome.
I was like,
too good to be true. October 4th. Yeah, and I'll double check in Canvas to make sure that's in there right. I'm already jumping ahead. Okay, well, you guys are free to go. Thanks for joining today, and if you have any questions, please hang on. I'll be on for a little bit.
Thank you.